In this video, I'm going to show you how you can utilize Photoshop layer styles to add fancy effects to your graphic designs. So I've got this file here that I've created just to show you how these layer styles can be applied to various different types of layer. So we've got a text layer at the top, we have a shape in the middle, which is the heart, and then a photograph at the bottom. I'm going to start with the hello with the text layer, and I'm just going to zoom in using Ctrl and plus on my keyboard so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit easier. To open the layer styles box, all you need to do is go over to the layer that you want to add the styles to, and then click on it to select it, and then double click on the right hand side of the layer, and that will open up this box for you. So the first thing you've got is blending options, and you've got these sliders in the middle, and these allow you to change the opacity of your layer. So you can take it down to make it semi-transparent, or keep it at 100 to make it fully opaque. The next option we've got in the left hand side of all the different options is bevel and emboss. If we click on that one, what it's done is it's given a beveled effect to my hello text, which is making it look a little bit 3D. Again, you can play about with the sliders to give the effect more or less effect, depending on the look that you're going for. Down the bottom, you've got the highlight colours. So if we click into this, we can change the colour that we want our highlights to be. So if I turn them both to blue, my hello has now got blue embossing rather than the white and the black that it had before. To turn off an effect, just go over to the left hand side and just click the little tick box, and it gets rid of it. Underneath is the stroke option, and this is what allows you to put a border around the edge of your layer. Photoshop remembers the last setting that you had when you used each tools, which is why this one is showing a big thick yellow border, because that's what I was using the last time I used the stroke tool. The slider at the top lets you change the size, and then at the bottom I'm just going to change the colour to make it a bit more obvious what I'm doing, as that yellow is quite pale. Okay, so with your stroke you've got a couple of different options. You can change the position from outside, inside and centre. It's outside at the moment. If I put it on the inside, it's going to put that borderline inside my text rather than outside it. So I'm going to keep it on the outside for now, because when you put it inside on text, it starts to make your text look a little bit strange. You can also change the opacity of your stroke if you want it to be semi-transparent or completely opaque. The next option is inner shadow, and if I click on this one, you can see that's put a shadow on the inside of my text. You can change the colour again, and also the opacity to make it darker or lighter, and then use the sliders to choose how much of the effect you want to see. So you can make it a lot more subtle or really obvious. For the next few, I'm going to move on to my heart shape to show you that these layer styles can be applied to shapes just as easily as they can with text. So when you're happy with the styles you've got, just click OK, and it will apply them to that layer. So my text now has that inner shadow on it. I'm going to go over to my heart layer and then click it, and then on the right hand side of that layer I'm going to double click to bring up the layer styles. The next style we're going to look at is the inner glow. So if I click that one, you can see that's added a pink glow to the inside of my heart. If I change this to white, again you can just see how changing the colour and also changing the size affects how that inner glow looks. The blend mode at the top is quite useful to use as well. Now by default, inner glow is normally set to multiply, and that doesn't actually show up very well. So what you might want to do to make your inner glows more obvious is choose normal in the drop down, I'm going to untick the inner glow and move down to satin. And this has put a little pattern across the top of my heart. Again, I can change all of these settings, so I could change the angle, I could change how opaque it is, I can change the colour, and I can change the size as well. So have a play about and see all the different types of effect you can get just from one of these layer styles. The option underneath is colour overlay, which lets you put a colour on top of your layer. So I'm going to drag that up to 100% to make it more obvious, and then if I just change the colours here, you can see how this is changing the colour of my heart. And if I drag that opacity down again, it's now going to show some of the original colour through, but put that yellow on top. The next option is the gradient overlay, and this works very similarly to the main gradient tool in the Photoshop Tools palette. I'm going to click this and it's applied a gradient to my heart. Now that's probably not a very good example because it's got some custom settings on it. If I change it to this one, there we go, then that's a little bit more of a example of how a gradient would look. So once again, you've got the opacity where you can click and drag how opaque it is. You've got your gradient colours and style in here, so we can change the colours. Or to add custom colours, just go down to the bottom, click into the little colour boxes, then click where it says colour, and this lets you choose whatever colour you want to make a custom gradient. There's a drop down here for style as well, and this changes the style of the gradient that it shows. So if I just switch that back to linear, you've got this angle slider, little wheel as well, and dragging that changes the angle of your gradient. And then finally you've got the scale, so dragging this changes how obvious the transition between the colours in your gradient palette is. The next layer style is pattern overlay. So I'm going to click on that one, and you can see that's put a little line pattern over my heart. You can click into the pattern box to show different patterns in there. Photoshop do give you a few default ones, but you can also download or make your own. So if I change this to this square one, you can see now instead of lines, it's got a square pattern. Just like with all the other layer styles, we can drag up the opacity or drag it down to show some of our original colour through. We've also got a scale slider, so this shows how zoomed in on the pattern you want to get. So for this one, it's going to look a bit better if we zoom out a bit more on the scale, because then it shows more of the squares inside our heart. I'm going to untick the pattern overlay now and move on to the next one, which is outer glow. So again on this one, you might want to change the blend mode to normal, which mine already is, which will make it show up more. And then you've got the opacity. And I'm just going to change the colour off of yellow because it's a little bit hard to see at the minute. So I'll change that to red. So hopefully you can see that that's put a little red glow around the outside of the heart. But to make it even more obvious, I can change the spread and the size to grow that outer glow and make it even larger. Finally, we've got the drop shadow option. So I'm going to click on that one, and that, as the name suggests, adds a shadow underneath your layer. And just like with everything else, we can make it more or less opaque. We can change the angle, and we can also change how much drop shadow we want to show, and of course you can change the colour. There's one more option which we skipped over at the beginning, which is at the very top, which is styles. If we click on this, Photoshop have some default styles in here which you can apply, and what this does is it applies loads of different layer styles, so you can see down the left what it's actually doing when I click through. So you can use this to add some quick styles to your layers. But what you can also do is load in your own layer styles. So if you've got something that you use a lot, for example, let's say you always use the same type of drop shadow and colour on text on your Pinterest pins, you might want to save that as a new style. And then whenever you want to apply that to your graphic, you just have to click this styles button at the top, click on your custom one, click OK, and it would apply those styles for you. Layer styles can also be added to photographs. So if I double click on my flower layer to bring up the layer styles, and then you might see sometimes that some of your layers kind of disappear a little bit, especially if you've been using custom layer styles. And that's okay, because all you need to do is go down to the bottom where it says effects and then click reset to default list, and it will put all your effects back up for you. Okay, so I'm going to add a very simple border to this photo. I'm going to hit stroke to add the border. And that's gone very small at the minute, so I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to click into the colour, and then I want my border to be a nice pink that matches the petals, so I can move my mouse cursor over to the photo to get the eyedropper tool and just click, and it'll pick up that colour for me. So if I click OK and OK, I've now got a border on my photograph. If you decide that you don't want the layer styles to appear anymore, then you can remove them really easily. So if I go to my hello layer, I'm going to right click on the right side of the layer and then look to where it says clear layer styles. I'm going to click on that, and it gets rid of all the layer styles for me. You can also copy layer styles from one layer to another. So let's say I want to add that pink border to the heart as well as the photo, and I also want to get rid of everything that's on the heart. I can go to the photo and right click and then click copy layer style, and then go to my heart and right click and paste layer style. And that's got rid of any layer styles that were already on the heart, so it reset it back to its original grey with nothing else applied. And then what it's done is it's copied over all the layer styles from the flower image, so in this case the pink border. Layer styles are a fun way to add interest to your graphic designs, so go ahead and have a little playthrough and see how all of the different styles will affect your layers.